So again, just recalling that this is these can be sensitive subjects and everything. Very good to just ground ourselves. And I do it. I do it with a closed eye, just feeling. First of all, just feeling myself in the body, letting go of all my thoughts, my anticipations, all the feelings that I've come into the meeting with, and instead going to just what does it feel like to be in a body? And then very gently moving from that experience um, to the area where more often we do our meditations, to the feeling of what it is to experience the breath, to experience ourselves as a breathing body. This timeless being that we've been since since we were born. But just grounding ourselves in the here and now of present sensations. Each moment is yours. Feeling it as a domain of freedom, just to be present here in the body. Resting in the rhythm of the breath, resting in the sensations of sitting. A very simple presence. Noticing as we feel the sensations in the body, if there are any feelings that we have after letting go of thoughts, any feelings of um, anticipation or delight or concern, not stirring up thinking, but just noticing how the body feels. Anxiety, just simple presence. And allowing those feelings to manifest as sensations rather than as thoughts, and to arise and pass away, and just very simply seeing what's next. We sometimes call it following the feelings. Being connected to who we are, who we really are. And as we uh, begin to come out of this, before opening your eyes, just reminding yourself that you're in a community, bring your awareness back to the whole body. So you're feeling the wholeness of being here. And then come into the community with this awareness of just being here, just being present without being dominated by our thinking, our attachments, our aversions, our clingings. Feel free to open your eyes. And great welcome to my cousin Lissy. Good to see you, my dear. Wonderful to see you here. Matt, welcome, really welcome. Good to be here with you. And Kathy, of course, as always, I'm so glad you could join for even a bit of this. I know you've got other things that are pressing. in the next hour or two. Um, so I want to start with, and Mary, of course, has sent a little chat, which is just great. And as I said, she's not going to be able to be on audio or video, but those of you that know Mary know that she's here with a great heart and an incredible mind. So we're in good company there, even though she's quiet. Um, uh, so the way we structure this, and Matt, I don't remember whether you've been to one of these or not, but they're fun, they're moving, they're challenging at times, but we start with our concerns. And we just kind of everybody gets a chance to pitch in and share what's your greatest concern? What are you fearful of? What is annoying you? What's producing great anxiety, perhaps? Could be very personal and very local, could be very large and global and dramatic. But whatever it is, and usually it's in the social, political, community, larger community realm, but whatever it is. And um, and then we move from that about halfway through, we move toward um, what is, where do we feel engaged in a positive way? How are we moving to action from this place of challenge? And, or what is inspiring us at this point? Um, and so a number of us, most of the people here have been off and on, some of them regulars for a year. So you're in good company. Welcome. Whoever would like to begin, it's just a potpourri, just unmute. And Dick, you've already unmuted. I don't know whether that was intentional or not, if you wanted to dive in. But,
never got around to remuting.
All right. Well, you were quite silent in the meditation. Good job, man. Good job.
There we go.
So whoever wants to share, and Dick could be the first if he wants.
All right, George. I think before I do concerns, I do have a major celebration, which is that today is the 20th anniversary of my kidney transplant.
Oh my.
And 20 years ago, my son gave me a kidney, and we are both doing great.
Oh.
And every day is a gift, and it's been wonderful. It continues to be wonderful. It continues to be, I don't take it for granted. I don't take it that I'll make it to 21. I hope to make it to 30. Who knows? But I am so grateful to have these 2 decades of extra life, and it's very special. So.
Wow. Well, very special for me that I've known you even longer than that, but
That's right.
That you've been here these 20 years. Just incredible, Dick. So happy.
So anyway, besides that, however, I will do concern, which is, as I have been frequently, I think what we call the polycrisis of environment and energy and political collapse around the world and all the rest continues to get worse, continues to be ignored by everyone who, nobody sort of puts together, gee, all these governments are collapsing, all these governments are being voted out of office. And, we try to think of ours as, well, what did Harris do wrong? As opposed to, what does everyone, even Modi lost his majority in India. I mean, the people are unhappy. They don't know why they're unhappy. And based on everything I can see, they will continue to be unhappy because there are no good solutions to what we're facing. So I've been calling it Worldview 2 for 25 years, which is that the physical environment matters more than the monetary environment or more than the political machinations. And there are a lot of very serious issues that don't affect the world. And we can get very upset about them. But then when you step back a point, you say, gee, there's, it doesn't matter how we, it matters, but it's not critical how we do A, B, or C. But, we are facing major challenges that we are not prepared for.
Yeah. As you were speaking, I was thinking of my brother Tom, and I'm sad that he's not here. He's not feeling well. He had a tough COVID and then a tough flu. And he's just in the midst of the flu. So, but he would, be right there with the environmental stuff and everything you're saying. So I just want to bring his message in as support for you, Dick.
We'll send him our good wishes.
I will. I will. Um, yeah. So, thank you. Who would like to go next on this area of concern, worry, anxiety, whatever you want to share?
I'd be
Uh,
happy to.
Yeah, Matt, welcome.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. I suppose from a personal standpoint, I might cheat and dip into the second section of inspiration. But next week is the 4th anniversary of my liver transplant. Grateful to be cancer-free. So the inspiration part is Richard, and thinking about a couple of decades it inspires me. So there's a second chance and more story to continue.
Beautiful.
I think on sort of the global political, for me, disparities are always top of mind. I think of from a socioeconomic standpoint, um, uh, it's not new by any stretch, but certainly they're increasing from purely financial, from a variety of different economic data points. It's a brutal world to live in for so many. I love the book Factfulness, that it's both much better now and needs to get much better because it's still not great. And being able to hold that and in place and remember 1,000 years ago is probably not a place that I would have survived in. Never mind even a couple hundred years ago. I think around health disparities as well, around and along specifically racial and geographic lines, the disparities are significant. That there's still infant mortalities that are higher along lines of racial lines is ridiculous in my opinion, because it's constructed. But it wasn't lost beyond me receiving cancer treatment through COVID that living in the greater Boston area, there's just an abundance of resources is an understatement. Looking at places like India, where people weren't, especially through COVID, able to get basic health care. And it was just a stark contrast, certainly looking at the news and what I had the privilege of experiencing with world-class healthcare that quite literally saved my life. But to know that so many, even just very basic, not even expensive, a few dollars, that could save lives that people just don't have access to around the world, is something that is, I suppose, near and dear to my heart, but causes angst.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. I've missed you this year, man. Really, really beautiful contribution. Thank you so much. I'm going to look for that book, Factfulness, because for me, that's a lot of what's going on, that we appreciate the great things, but we're really aware of the needs. Thank you so much, Matt. Who would like to go next? Um,
I'll jump in,
yes,
George.
great to see you, man.
Great to see you, and please give Tom my best, and really hope that he recovers. And great to hear about Dick and Matt, and continued great health for both of you, because that's just wonderful news. I'm going to pick up on this sort of healthcare topic, but unfortunately, I'm going to come at it from a concern that I have, that where I've been speaking to friends, and actually people in the medical field. And there is a crisis, and that crisis is being driven by people who are in finance, that we are putting profit over people's health. And it is stark here in Massachusetts. As I was telling Laura earlier this morning, when we had our delightful conversation with Lydia, I plan to write the governor, because I think that there has been malfeasance to the point, George, where people's lives are at stake. Nurses are starting to say, we don't have the equipment, we don't have the manpower, and people are dying. And it's there's an emotional toll that's being taken, and there's a physical toll. But to Matt's point, yes, some people can get world-class care, and we can get world-class care here, but it's much harder than it was 20 years ago, and it's getting more and more difficult. And the more people I talk to, they are saying that it's getting harder to find a specialist, that the cost of that care is going through the roof, that insurance is simply not covering or will not cover. And people are having to make choices between whether they eat, whether they pay their bill, electricity bill, or whether they are able to get health care. And those are choices that simply should not have to be made. It should be a right. It should be something that should be accessible to us, whether that's through universal health care. I don't know. I'm not a professional in that area, but I am super concerned about it. And I plan to write our governor about it. And I'm going to let her know that this is unconscionable behavior on the part of a state that used to put the commonwealth ahead of profits, and it is now been flipped. And so that's my concern.
Fabulous, Stefan. Really, really great to be reminded of it all. I'm also struck by how many of us here have strong connection with Massachusetts in this call. Thank you so much. Powerful, wonderful. Who would like to go next? Lissy, yes. You.
I wish I had more of a connection with Massachusetts, but building on what Stefan said, a dimension of the cruelty element in healthcare is now the increased risk to women of childbearing age. And I was stunned during the Democratic convention to have a couple of speakers who had, one who, the sister and mother of a young woman who had died because the effing doctor was afraid to give care until it was too late. And I'm afraid that, together with the larger war on women, is only going to get worse, and it's compounded by the guys in the suits who are making healthcare decisions. It was at first appalling to me, the reaction when the head of United Healthcare was murdered. And then I understood it. I was shocked at some of my friends on Facebook who said the F word him, good riddance kind of. But it's like before the French Revolution, enough already. And it's going to be hard for me to, I would like help in finding out what I can do, if anything, to help oppose that momentum, that awful momentum, without taking to the streets with a pitchfork. A little old for that anyway.
Well spoke. Thank you, Lissy. Wow, an amazing theme that really was started with Dick's celebration, and but thank you for adding that. Absolutely. We have Laura and Kathy, and then I'll probably speak at the turning point. Yeah.
Sure, I'll go next, and I'll stick with the theme because I feel like I have new insights into kind of seeking insurance and seeking for things to be covered. And I guess what I've discovered is how difficult it is when you even have insurance to find providers that understand it and to ensure that you actually are going to have everything covered. I have like recent, experience in for my family in dealing with this, and I guess I just didn't realize how difficult it is to connect the dots. And so I guess my concern is that if it's difficult for me as a educated white woman, how difficult, like I think I'm just kind of like experiencing the awareness of like how difficult it must be for others who have those systemic barriers more in place that Matt was referring to. And it's just not fair. I mean, I think also with the work that we've been talking around fiduciaries and being fiduciary and all things, it's just really disappointing that we people, United States citizens, established these systems that don't actually work for us, and are in many ways intended to harm us. And to Stefan's point, like it's the top people, the richest people that are the ones benefiting it. And so I'm kind of with Lissy, like with the understanding why people would react the way they have around the CEO's murder. And that's an uncomfortable place to be, to understand and act like that, and to be in that gray that I feel like we are all kind of trying to figure out how to navigate.
Beautiful. I mean, I'm tough, but beautifully said. And thank you, Laura, really in some way bringing us all together in a way, and taking it to the larger sphere as well. Thank you. So sorry you've been going through it. Kathy.
Yeah, it's very moving to hear all of you, and I feel like I resonate with everything you're saying and could speak to any or all of those. But I think the thing that probably is my biggest concern, or just I felt in my heart the most, is the level of anger and violence and gun violence and car, ramming through the streets of New Orleans. And I just feel a lot of despair about that. And I feel it here, being in a small community of Hana in Hawaii, that the feeling particularly of young Hawaiians and mixed race young people here is a lot of anger. There's a lot of rage, just that we never felt. It used to be you just wave to everybody, and there's just like you feel like a little scared sometimes that people are, and particularly young people, are really angry. And I understand it. I mean, affordable housing here, talk about inequity, is a major problem. I mean, it's just, there's so much. But I guess I'll end with, I was taking our 20-year-old daughter, one of our 20-year-old daughters, to the airport on the other side of the island, and we had a couple hours to kill. So we watched most of the Bob Dylan movie. And when it got to Times Are Changing, it completely got me. I mean, I just, like, and what got me so much was sitting next to her and just feeling the hope that we had. I remember listening when I was 16 live on the stereo or whatever, to him singing that song, and just feeling like we were going to change the world. Like there was just so much hope. And I go, oh my, I can't believe we are where we are now. And I feel so sad for her and her friends, and scared about this new administration taking us even more in the opposite direction. So yeah, I think one of my challenges is my own despair, too, having worked so hard on the election, and I've just checked out basically for the last, whatever it is, couple months. And I don't know how to even work with that, like how just what I'm going to do at this point. So there's also that personal feeling of what's next for me and where do I put my energy
Wow.
and deal with the disappointment and despair. Okay, I think that's it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Kathy, and connecting the anger to the pitchfork that Lizzie was talking about earlier. It's we've all got it, and it's scary. And I, the Bob Dylan movie, I haven't seen it yet. You got to go across the island, and I was still here. But I have thought occasionally that maybe that's one of the small elements of hope and of inspiration that we might take by going to it and having those same feelings that you were feeling. But I want to take this in a different area. Most of you know where I go and in some way, but and pick up on Laura's theme about the billionaires but Stefan's as well about money and profit rather than putting people first, bringing up the kind of the B Corp kind of thought of people and planet and profit, echoing Dick as well. Private equity really has taken over medicine, and I know Mary's on the call, and this is all dear to her heart. I know she's there feeling all of this and supporting us in all of this. I want to take it to my concern is big. It is huge, and certainly medical's part of it. But I read the article, maybe many of you did, that exactly how rich Musk is in relation to the robber barons at the end of the 19th century, the beginning of the 20th century. And he is, at this point, he's 10% richer than Rockefeller was at his death. And Rockefeller, and considerably richer than Carnegie as well. And Musk is right 50 or so. So, and most of Rockefeller's wealth came in the last 40 years of his life. So this is just stunning. And when you think about him having control of the major satellite system that is used for our intelligence gathering, that's used for wars and determining who wins that war in so many ways, as well as one of the 5 or 6 major media companies in the world. So he's got the strings of propaganda underneath him, the strings of the military, and he's friends with a lot of he's friends with all the billionaires are crowding around him. And there we see the billionaires gathering, like the robber barons at the top layers of government. That's of enormous concern to me, because you've got military, information, propaganda, and powers of government all linked together here in America, this land of freedom, this land of democracy. And I think about what is it? I want to remember factfulness, because I want to get this, because we do have both things. But my thought has been, one of the thoughts that has come to me is that, and this again is part of this fiat fiduciary in all things message, is that if capitalism, which has produced the great things that we've talked about, if capitalism can't sustainably and systemically produce the very best of humanity, it will be a colossal failure, just a colossal failure. And this is something that Dick's been preaching for 20 years in a way, and that's enormously worrying for me. That's the big one for me, and where I am with all of my work. So I'm going to carry this turnaround here just a little bit from the great worry to some inspiration and some thought. The old saying, it's always darkest before the dawn. You don't know that. Could get darker and darker. But we always hope that. And having those billionaires being right at the center of power, and being very visible about it. I've been creating memes, little posts of wisdom or whatever I try about Doge, the DOGE, the Musk and Ramaswamy. And because we've got an opportunity in a way to really nail this with the powers that are there. But I think what gives me more hope than anything is I've been working my tail off. I've been really developing something. Most of you are familiar with my work in financial services and how that really changed enormously how financial advice has been given, and to touching more about who human beings are. And what I've begun to realize, I've created a workshop to enter businesses. And it's in a way like a Trojan horse, but we're looking a lot at the B Corp, and we have connections there, and we're aiming probably to start this in the UK. Um, uh, and Matt, I don't know how aware you are of the fiat movement of the fiduciary in all things, but you have some knowledge, yeah. So, and there's Mary coming on, video anyway. What I'm realizing is the workshop that I've created for businesses is very similar to the workshop that I created. Dick, you were there at the very beginning of these workshops, of the 7 stages workshops, bringing the notion of heart and emotional intelligence and listening, really deep listening, and aspirations, the common humanity. And in this case, in financial services, it was to individuals who are coming in and usually were just sold a bunch of stuff. And we thought, no, that's not right. This should be about their humanity and who they really want to be. And that's where we want to be as human beings, connected to them, putting them first. That's where the notion of fiduciary came in. And we are fiduciaries to them. And so I'm bringing a lot of that in a similar way into, I've designed something for businesses, and it'll work best at first for the B Corps because they already have a strong mission in that arena. But it aims at this theme of people that a number of you brought up, certainly Dick and Stefan brought up, at making the people kind of a microcosm of what the noble venture is all about in the corporations. And so that's giving me hope right now. Is I'm energized around it. I'm moving on it, and speaking about it. And just one more thing, I designed a pitch. I don't know whether it'll land anywhere, but for keynotes about fiduciary, that in financial services, where more often than not I'm asked to give speeches. And the speech is essentially toward a fiduciary society, and it just asks a simple question: hey, we're all fiduciaries. How come all the corporations around us, you look at all of them, not a single one of them is a fiduciary toward people, the planet, toward democracy, toward the truth? Not a single one of them. It's time they were. It's really simple keynote. There I am. All we can do is speak out, and that, for me anyway. So there I am. I'm happy to shut up now and hear what I'd welcome whatever you have to say. I want to hear it. Hope, inspiration, what's energizing you, engaging you, call to action, whatever it is that you find that might be uplifting for us.
I'll go first, George, if
Thanks, Dave.
you don't mind.
It's great.
So I'm inspired by fiat, to the point where I had a wonderful conversation, as I mentioned, with Laura and Lydia earlier. And my hope is to create a series called CEO Conversations, where at least in one, if not multiple, of the interviews that I want to do, to bring fiat to life, and to bring fiat to where it becomes the center of a conversation of how the future corporation should look and act and behave. And so my hope is for 2025 and beyond that this podcast or videocast series, however I do it, will be in part supportive of the fiat movement and will generate interest and excitement, but commitment, right? I don't want people just saying, wow, that seems interesting. Well, good for you. How are you going to get involved? What are you going to do about it? That's what I want the answers to. And I will tell you right now, as I told Laura and Lydia, that not only my company will sign the oath, but I will get other CEO friends of mine to sign the oath as well. And we will be fiat enabled.
Woo! Oh my, I'm thrilled. I'm so excited. Thank you so much, Stefan. Wow. And I'm really excited about your venture as well. How inspiring and engaged you are. Yeah, terrific. Great. Who would like to go next?
I might go next just because I'm leading another Zoom at 8 and I need to get off a little early to prepare. So I think two ways that other than because I'm living and breathing fiat with George and I have no choice but to be, no, I am really very hopeful and excited about it. And his passion is so like just intense and focus on it. So that's inspiring. But yeah, we haven't gathered this group Women Fired Up that I co-lead. We took a 2-month break after the election and we're going to meet very soon. So I'm hopeful about that. It's an incredible group of women. We were all kind of devastated, working very hard in different ways on the election. So now it's a time to come back together and see where we go from here. And there may be some links with fiat. I'm certainly going to talk about that in the group and just see where everybody is and I wasn't ready. All of us just needed a break. So it's good that I feel. And Lissy, yes, please join the group. We'd love to have you. I'll yay. And I think the other thing is the inner work. So really where my focus has been on is on meditation and teaching meditation and going much deeper in my own practice. And we have a 10-day retreat starting that we're leading, George and I are leading starting in a week, which I'm really looking forward to, because I do feel with what I was talking about in terms of anger and violence and guns and all of that, that the inner and the outer really need to work together. That if we don't change from just our own physical being, our breath, our, right action, right livelihood, right, or connected to just as George often talks about, the direct experience of being that we're so lost in all of this emotion and no way to work with it. And so I think also how to get that out more too. So I'm hopeful. I don't know exactly how. There is a lot happening in schools, but a lot more needs to happen, I think, too, to bring the work on the inner and outer at the same time, which fiat does. This 1-day workshop, the first 2 hours would be on this moment is yours and on it developing a meditative practice. So that's very positive.
Wow. Beautiful, beautiful, Kathy. And I'm connecting things here because Women Fired Up and then the pitchfork over here. That I just want to remind you that William Blake talked about this. I mean, I'm a literary guy, right? And William Blake wrote about John Milton's Paradise Lost. And what he said was that Satan and Milton had worked for Cromwell, his history going back to the revolutionary times in England. And William Blake said that Milton's Satan was actually a heroic figure, and that Milton was on the side of Satan without really realizing it, because of this spirit of revolution that they were about, and about bringing democracy in. So hearing you women fired up and the pitchfork that Lissy's carrying, I'm just reminded of that image. I hope that isn't too horrific for you, but I think it's pretty wonderful. I mean, fire is very important, and that we bring that passion in a really positive way forward. Thank you. And you radiate peace, Kathy, I must say, as you speak. It's really quite wonderful. Yeah.
I didn't yesterday with our daughter, but
That's very rare, my dear, very rare. Who's next?
I'll go next because Kathy was inspired me with her inner work focus. I think that's really all I can do right now, is focus on self and focus on like developing the trust that I'm needing to like feel like we're like, I guess, grounded and have direction. And I think it's just more like trusting that I already know the answers, or that I know the path forward. And even if it's uncomfortable or unknown, that the practice of listening to yourself, of focusing on your breath, and really leaning into the mindfulness practice and being present is ends up being the best guide through challenging times.
Beautiful. Wow. Lovely, Laura. Right on. And I am going to go back to Kathy's talking about the beginning of this workshop is that, and is saying in every organization, we need that centered piece of truth that comes out, radiates from everybody. Beautifully said. Thank you. Yeah. Who would like to go next? Yes, Lissy.
One of the elements of the political embroiled situation that I've become increasingly aware of in the last year, having spent 4 or 5 or 6 years saying, how could anybody in their right mind support Trump, particularly a woman? I have come to understand, or begin to understand, white rural rage, or the disempowered people, that to whom Trump was maybe their only way upward or out of their situation. So one of the questions for myself is, what can I do? I mean, I don't want to blandly listen to somebody tell me that Trump is a savior and that Biden is Satan on earth. But it seems to me that particularly when these people they're going to have a whole lot of buyer's remorse when things begin to come down. So how do we gently and with some love, or at least empathy, listen to them and help them feel that they have a sense of agency that's not dependent on some two-bit dictator.
Wow.
So some of it has to be by example, just sitting down and talking with people, I suppose. And that seems to me that the Movement Voter Project, that was the whole thing, being in the community with people, and just sitting down. The young woman who works for me and lifts and types and thinks the way I could at age 40 was sitting next to a Trumper, a fellow parent, at her son's hockey game. And because she is a registered marksman and a bunch of other things, she could listen to him about the Second Amendment and gun control, stuff like that. But her whole, it really got my attention because she was saying, yeah, I hear you. And I know I have to find a way to get down off of my high horse, privileged, well-educated, insulated horse and say, I hear you. But
Wow, beautiful. Lucy, I hear you. I hear you. And that connection of empathy, your empathy is just pouring out. And the connection of empathy to agency and to the white rural rage, as you call it. Wow,
that's a book that Hank was reading.
wow. I'm glad you're there in Ohio to where you are. Go for it. Beautiful. So we've heard this depth of quiet and empathy from the women so far, and we have three fellas left. Where do we go? Where do you, from your perspective, inspiration, engagement, action, hope?
I'm happy to share.
Yeah, man.
Go ahead, Matt.
I am encouraged and inspired even by this conversation now, here today. I think one of the quotes that comes to mind, well, I've altered it, so maybe it's not a specific quote, but one of the greatest antidotes to fear is knowledge and love. And I think that encouraged by knowledge, my background has been in nonprofit financial education. And I've seen a lot of growth there. In Massachusetts, I worked with a group to bring some legislation that Charlie Baker passed for K-12 financial education. Next Gen Personal Finance is a group that's done quite a bit around the country in bringing financial literacy to schools. And I think around finance, it's important. I think of building and growing on the idea of whole health wealth. I talked a little bit about health, but the different domains of well-being are inseparable. Several of you have talked about the importance of mental and physical health, which meditation and the work are both part of being able to grow and strengthen. As far as the challenge that I mentioned in healthcare, encouraged and inspired by a group that I've been honored to work with in New England around cholangiocarcinoma. So bile duct cancer was the cancer that I had. It's very rare, very aggressive. There are very few patients who live more than 6 months to a year or so. And the rest of this group are filled with legacy caregivers. They've all lost someone near and dear. And they're incredible, amazing people who took the pain of their lives and are pouring it in to help others so that others don't have to suffer some of the same things that their loved ones and families did. And to be part of that and have different convenings, working together with Mass Health is inspiring. It's inspiring to see love shine. And I think that love conquers all things. I think that there are lots of worries and fears and anxieties. There's changing world order that Richard mentioned, and I know more and more Ray Dalio is talking more about changing world order and his data points around that from both a historical and economic perspective and world powers. But I think at the end of the day, love rules all. And I'm inspired to be part of this conversation, to hear other people think about being a fiduciary in all things, loving other people, and working to just improve. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Matt. Great to have you here. Wonderful. Inspired by you. And Kathy's leaving. Go well, Kathy. All right. So two left. Who would like to go next?
I'll go. I'm not sure what I'm going to say, but you'll all find out at the same time I do. I think my challenge, which I guess I can turn into a hope or something, is between a lot of physical challenges that I have. I have very limited mobility anymore, increasing sense of isolation. I look forward to things like this, and one of my superpowers historically has been being a convener. But like, I could no longer go to the Nasrudin meetings, George, that you and I started 3 decades ago. So it's been trying to figure out how I can stay involved and stay engaged, and with not knowing from day to day whether I'm going to have a good day or a bad day, is a challenge. And one of the things that I'm trying to do, which I think is a good positive thing, is spend less time on, pardon the expression, George, less time on the moments of, living down the street from the White House, and more time on meaningful things, reading more novels, and thinking about directions for how life works. And it's real easy to spend full time just reading your emails and reading the various news sources that come in that all have useful things, and how to clear both physical space so that every horizontal surface of my office has something on it, to have a place where I can physically and mentally expand and do work and do creativity. And it's very hard to make that happen. But I hope to see how that goes this year.
Wow, wonderful. Wonderful, Dick. And I will say that as you speak of reading novels and everything, I really look forward every time to this meeting and think of you as I'm looking forward to this meeting, because of your humanity, the depth of your humanity. And I know, having been a literature guy, that those novels are just filled with that. And so I envy you that time, and wish for you that clearing of the decks and creativity. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Stefan, yeah, if you've
I actually went, George.
oh, you did. You went with the
Right.
with your movement. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Fabulous. Yes, I forgot. Yeah, and I didn't forget that. I thought,
George, already.
yeah, I know. I was so
George.
excited by what you were saying, and
I don't think it was a forgetfulness, Stefan. I think that was just that you're a fount of inspiration so that we can look to you more
Oh,
than
well,
once.
thank you, Matt. Thank you, Matt. I'm inspired by these gatherings. I have to say that truly, on an inspirational level, that these gatherings expand my horizons. They expand my humanity. When I listen to Richard and his story, when I listen to Matt, what it does is it gives me hope that we can be strong enough to stand up to whatever evil, whatever malfeasance comes our way, that we can overcome it, and that we can stand together. And these serve that purpose. And so, Dick, every moment that you're with us, that you're speaking to us, is a gift to all of us. And it's the same for Matt, and it's the same for Lissy and Kathy and Laura. And I take that away, and it helps ground me and center me. So, okay, I've spoken enough.
beautiful, beautiful. I saw that Mary had just briefly unmuted, and I didn't know if she meant to or not, but if she wanted to say something, that's fine. She may not be, she's not in a place where she felt she could, was what it was. Beautiful. Well, I'm inspired, and likewise, Stefan, I feel really touched by these meetings. I didn't know that I would, even though I started the whole thing. But really, really touched. Thank you so much. Any other final words from anybody? We've got a few minutes left. If there's anything else that's come up, yeah, Lissy.
I'm the last word freak.
Great.
A phrase that a friend passed on from a friend of hers.
I'm not sure.
is self-care is community care. And I really thought about that. If I'm being noble and running myself ragged, I'm not a help to anybody, least of all myself. But if I can radiate kindness, maybe that energy will influence somebody else and spread out, rather than the fount of impatience I am when I'm driving. You know, I'm trying to change that a whole lot. Anyway, I love the idea of, the charity begins at home and so does carity.
Well, you could see it here, couldn't you? I mean, when people were talking about their inner life or their personal care, I feel that we were brought closer together as a consequence. That there was just an empathy implicit in it, bringing us back to our heart and who we really are, our authenticity. Thank you, Lissy. Beautiful. And any other final moment, or we'll do this again in a couple of months. I mean, in a month. And it's first Tuesday, and there is a steering committee for Fiat. If you care to join, we're pretty public about that, so you can see that and join if you want. Lots happening.
George, if it's okay, I wanted to piggyback on what Lissy said, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Well, it struck me that self-care is community care is a really powerful statement, for also that when you're in need of self-care, you actually need to lean on your community. And needing to go through that myself, and for my family right now, that I appreciate like the concept that, you can't care for others when, your cup is empty. But I think you also can't fill your cup unless you're leaning on the connections that you have with others. So thank you for that quote, as it's giving me something to ponder.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Laura. I was just thinking of our silent meditations that we do, but Kathy and I are going into a retreat where it's all community, even though it's we're doing that silent work. We feel the community around us all the time. Well, thank you so much. Much aloha to everybody here from Hawaii. We'll be back in Massachusetts before you know it. And we'll see you at least together again in a month, I hope. Yeah. Good. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Aloha. Yeah. Bye.